I left Amanda's name on this slide, so we have it. We can always find Greg through brand approval team, or BAT for short. But thank you. I was saying, if some of you are still joining us, this is we're in a learning process, and it is what it is. We will make our way through. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat. Don't let me forget, Sarah and Carol, your things. So first and foremost, Amanda Lucasco is our marketing liaison that we work with. I've worked with her now at least couple years that she's been with us. I've been in this role since June of 2008. So you'd think I would know all the answers by now, but as Greg so aptly said before, things keep changing. Amanda has a conflict this morning, and Greg Bunnell has graciously agreed to join us. He's a designer on our team, so he is a key member of the brand approval team, or BAT, as I say. The marketing team, as you know, they're making adjustments right now. So there's all kinds of things happening. An overview, just so you're aware, in terms of response in general. You've all probably seen the note about Bonnie Scranton, our web trainer, who passed away the beginning of the week. I don't, quite frankly, know how to do web training without Bonnie. She was around long before me. So yeah, that one's a tough one. So Eric, Web Eric, as I call him, is working on training and that kind of stuff. We'll mention that in a few. They actually have a writer whose last day was yesterday. And then one of the project managers or project coordinators is leaving in a couple weeks. So know that the marketing team has had, they're having a little bit of changes. Everyone there knows what they're doing and is more than capable, but there's a lot going on right now with that group. So, and again, feel free to ask questions throughout this is meant to be an informal conversation. Trying to pass on just a bit of overview about all of our roles and responsibilities, the brand philosophy in general, and then yes, we'll get into some specifics about the extension mark, and then just a few other reminders, that kind of thing. So roles and responsibilities, I always say extension's a group project. It just is. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise an extension organization and handle it. And we all play a role. I often say mindset matters, because it really does. We have to think about, ultimately what outcomes we want, and that goes along with being aware. And our whole goal overall is to be consistent and clear and concise. And I realize that that can be a challenge in this day and age. So from my end of things, a lot of what I work on, I always say my short description is I tell people what to do. I actually help people get their job done. And I'm often traffic director going, you need to talk to so-and-so. So a lot of what I do is reminding folks about those parameters within which we work, our organizational expectations, taking feedback questions back to Amanda and the marketing crew, as well as, helping our folks understand why we do some things. In fact, I asked Amanda a couple questions this morning that I can pass on. So I often say I'm a traffic director, and then I always assume good intentions, that everyone is trying to make a good faith effort, that we're trying to, that we are in this together. And the other from the other angle is extension employees. I always ask that you assume good intentions. We don't, and Greg can back me up on this, there aren't any guidelines that are put in place purposely to drive everyone crazy, unless we're talking about workday. No, I'm just kidding. But you have to assume good intentions and ask questions and apply best practices. But know that along the way, there are sometimes things that change at the university level that we are told about afterward, even within the marketing team. Sometimes it's, oh, yep, they've got a new font, or oh, they now allow X. So that's why we work so closely with Amanda and that marketing team, because things can change fairly quickly, and we are a gigantic organization as a whole. So it can be hard to pass along, make sure that everyone hears the information at the same time. So, and I always say apply best practices, use templates as basic tools, make sure you're playing on our team, and be an advocate in your office. I know office staff often get the do I really have to do it kind of thing, or that's not how I've done it for years. Well, the reality is, if it's in writing, if we're out there saying it, there are guidelines to follow. And I know you guys sometimes are like me, and we have to be the person saying that, yes, we have to follow the guidelines, the rules and regulations. So the other part of that too is, college, a little bit about who does what. So I'm the liaison with the marketing team. Usually the brand approval team interprets those university guidelines, implements standards, creates documents, helps us create documents as well as reviews our documents. And then at that top level is the college marketing group that's working on the college standards per the university and the dean. So that said, per the university, we are one entity, even though there are thousands upon thousands of us at Ohio State. And we are one university. We're a branded house. Way back when the university updated its brand overall in 2013 and 14, they kept saying we're going from a house of brands to a branded house. And that's very much true. That consistency, and we all own that reputation and that brand. So, and our whole goal is consistency, clarity, coordinated efforts. We want something to look like it belongs to Ohio State. Everything doesn't have to be cookie cutter by any means. And that's what Greg and the brand approval team can help with too, is making something not cookie cutter. But we need to be on brand overall. These I won't take the time to read, but there are differences between our identity, our brand promise, our image, and our brand positioning statement. I really do, and I put it on that previous slide, the brand website for OSU and the R brand, I really like how the overview is written on that website, just about, hey, here's who we are. It's a very conversational tone. We're more than our name and our logo. We're Ohio State. We're the reason my work study boss, when I was an undergrad at OU, would say, oh, you're going to the next year. We joke about it, but we're a huge presence overall. We really, really are. So take a look at those at some point. So then the other thing is the college brand view. We've all heard the dean say, we sustain life. We're one college with a common mission, Cornerstone College. We have a distinctive look and narrative for our college. We've got our college logo, and Extension's part of that statewide campus, and we all own that reputation. I'm not going to play it here because we don't have a tremendously long time, but there is a 2-ish minute overview on the college brand website that's the dean talking about how important it is to her that we all are part of the Ohio State identity and the college identity. Again, that's why we have brand approval team and designers to help us with that. So that said, the hot topic of the day, and yes, know that this slide is over branded because I used the shell and then wanted to dump the various elements on here. We all saw the announcement September 8th that Extension is allowed to move from using the college logo lockup and then the words Ohio State University Extension to the Extension mark. It's technically not a logo, it's a mark within, that sits underneath the college logo. The other mark that's available right now is the Worcester campus mark. I think, Greg, those are the only two at the moment.
Yeah, I think those are the only two modifications. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I first and foremost, and I've got a list of what to do and what not to do. I wanted to just talk about the mark a little bit to begin with. And the very first thing you need to know, because I've had this question, is that yes, we must move to using this mark. We can't ignore it. I've had someone say, can't I just keep using the old materials and not incorporate the mark? I'm fine with it. And I'm like, no, that's not what Jackie's vision is. We have to incorporate the elements. So the three main elements that have to be there, and I can bring up the page if you want. If not, it's very clearly written on the college brand page about the use of our mark along with the college tag the CFAES tag, and then the college name. Those three elements are already available online. When you go to the college brand page, so cfaes.osu.edu/brand, and that's on my next slide. Shalise, I can either before we end put a PDF of these slides in the chat box if you'll remind me, or we can make sure we send it out to folks afterward. Those three elements are already in there. So when you go to the college brand site, and then it says logos, and then there's an other marks page. So it's spelled out at the bottom of the page. You can download the extension mark. You can get to, okay, I saw your note. You're right. We'll send it to all support staff. What I could do is, I want to start doing this more, is put that even on the operations page. We can put the marketing and communication stuff there. I can send it out. It's a fairly short PDF when I've saved it as a PDF. So we'll make sure we send it to everyone. And I know some folks had trouble finding the college name, Greg, but it is in there. I did find it.
The spelled out.
Spelled out. And
Yeah.
I have a question, because if you look at this slide, the bottom, the shell of the slide spells out The Ohio State University and then College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. Is that, Greg, on there simply because the slide normally does not say Ohio State on it?
Exactly. Since the slide ordinarily would just be the CFAS tag and then our college name, it wouldn't have the Ohio State University on it, because presumably it would be branded on the first page or something.
Right. Right. So we've got all three of these elements. They have to be on the page. They don't necessarily have to be in a particular spot. I like the example that's on the landing page, simply because it's pretty crisp and clean. It's got the tag and the college name at the top. And I think it was Kay said it's under our elements. So sometimes you have to do a little searching, but they are there. And there's variations of, especially our mark, the college name. They're in red, they're in all black, they're in gray. Our mark can be in all red, all black, have the block O in red, and then the dark gray as I have it on here. So there are, and we still don't have separate sub logos, so to speak. So I've had that question again recently. It was, are we going to reinstate Master Gardener Volunteer logo, or an Ohio JSUP logo, that kind of thing? Those are still not allowed. This was a process to get this mark. This was a process and a discussion, I'm sure a heavy discussion with university marketing, from our college team to work with university marketing to even get the extension and the Worcester marks approved. And I know it's painful. I know people still, if you've been around a few years, it's still painful. My example is Celebration of Youth. We used to have a separate logo for that, and I'm the one who bought that logo ages ago. Sadly enough, 20 years ago or so, and I paid for it and then couldn't use it later. And that's, again, those are university level decisions. Our job is to assume good intentions and move forward with the mark. We'll come back to a few questions in a minute. I want to see if I can get it to change slides. I wanted to go over just, this is what's on the brand site, among other things. That overview video, the logo basics, a pre-approval checklist, general brand guidelines, editorial guidelines, everything color, fonts, graphics, the merchandise. We'll come back to, I'll mention that in a few as well. And then the BAT team email for all approvals. And then that OSU level again. So that's, let's see. And then let me see here. I'll start with these, and then I've got my list of what to do or not to do in general. All publications and materials have to be approved, reviewed, and approved for brand compliance prior to when you print or produce them. I know that has driven a lot of our fiscal folks crazy over time, because you guys, folks will send in, not you guys, folks, and people in all our positions push the envelope and they get something printed through a vendor and then ask for forgiveness. Basically, we really don't, especially in Workday, et cetera, you really have to get these things approved before you go to printing or production. And that it's just a matter of following the steps. It certainly makes it easier at your fiscal end, et cetera. One thing I wanted to ask Greg to clarify too is I know we've had complaints in the past that it takes a long time for something to be reviewed by BAT. I think we fixed that with how you guys are reviewing requests now. Is that true, Greg?
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, there are still times when we're just, deluged with other stuff. So it may be a few days, but we try to get an answer. Actually, we try to get an answer the same day, but it's within a day up to like 3 days, maybe. But I think that's generally, how quickly we can do. It also depends on if it's a really complex issue or not. We might have to reach out to other people at university marketing or somewhere else to get more details about it and stuff. But yeah, we try to do it in 72 hours. That's our goal. So.
And I know for the most part, kudos to you guys. You really have gotten answers back within hours most of the time. So
yeah, we really try to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to say just about the approval process is you don't have to worry. We're not judging your design, or we're not super picky about things. We're looking for the branding elements to be on there. And, there may be other things we would address if like some type seemed too small or something like that, if it just struck us that way. But we're not out to like, critique the work you're doing. Everybody's doing great work. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because it's, again, it goes back to that good faith effort and, some individuality, making sure that personality is showing through. It's just, we have to have some basics on there that show we belong to the college and that we belong to the university. So that said, and one of the things is when we say everything needs to go by, I will say this: if you've got two things. One is if you have multiple pieces for a project. So you've got a flyer, you're going to do a postcard, maybe you're going to do a banner. If you can send your mock-up of all of those at once to BAT, that helps tremendously, rather than one-offs. If you can do that, because that just helps them help you make a more cohesive look as well. The other thing is, if you're doing, and I use this example a lot, a field day for X, and you're going to have 10 different field days of, just the topic's different, but you're going to have the same flyer. Or I know an example before has been like the Woodland Stewards, their First Fridays program or something. If you get one of those flyers approved in terms of how you've reworked it, by all means, if you're just changing out the content, that doesn't have to see every nitty gritty, but if you make significant changes, and I'll mention that on templates here in a minute, or don't let me forget that. So that's something important to remember too. We're not saying, okay, just send every single flyer, even though, yep, all I've done is change, one paragraph in the date. Use your best judgment as well. This, like I said, this is a group effort. Thank you, Shalise. I know you mentioned it's an easy process. I know there's a couple questions about some stuff you just had printed and then reworking stuff. So let me get to my do's and don'ts. I didn't do a slide on this, so I'll stop there and go through my what to do. What we've asked is that, and you're welcome to use up material. This has to do with the mark, the new mark as a whole. What we'd like to do is see implementation in 2022. So by year end, use up existing materials, if that's possible. You can use existing templates. I'm looking at my notes, if necessary. So the new templates are they're on the list, they're in process. And I have a student, we created our own infographic templates, for example, and then BAT reviewed them and then posted them with all the other templates. I have a student who will be starting next week, and I'm hoping to have her at least rework the elements on the templates for the infographics and then put them up. The templates we're hoping, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, this is per Amanda, hoping that all of the templates are updated that relate to extension and 4-H before year end. The challenge is they also have to be accessible. So right now, the existing templates are grandfathered in terms of using them for items that if you've got something coming up and it's not extending into 2022, it's limited audience, that kind of thing. But you're welcome to adjust any template. You're welcome. I think it was Sarah said she, had the, or you've changed a job aid. I did the same thing with the PowerPoint template. I changed out the front slide, put the extension mark on it and sent it to BAT just to make sure it was fine. The rest of the slides I left alone because they, as you can see, have the college tag and the college name on them. That's how they looked before. I simply changed the front. So it's within reason as well. Now, that said, you can revise items, we suggest, as soon as possible. So I've had an educator contact me a couple weeks ago about newsletters. She's trying to update her newsletters before year end because she'll be on maternity leave the beginning of the year and she wants to start getting them turned over. So same thing, I told her, I think she wrote me back and said it's been to BAT, Greg, and approved, etc. And I told her this. She said, I think I've got what I need included. I know I have the elements. I'm not sure. I said, send it to BAT now and get feedback before you drive yourself crazy going, is this absolutely perfect? Greg's nodding his head.
Yeah.
You're glad to look at it more than once.
Sure.
That's for sure. So
sure.
Yeah. So like I said, the templates on the website are in process. So this is my caveat in general. If something it has to be turned around in the next few weeks. If it's got a super short lifespan, it's not beyond year end and you're pressed for time, what's on there is not wrong. You can use it. I could have continued using the existing slide. I mean, because the college logo is not going away. If you were here in 13 and 14 when the university switched, that was beyond massive because everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's our use of our mark within the college branding. So you're not off base, but we'd like you to be more on base, if that makes sense. So let's see. I know we had, and I can give you an example too of a really easy thing. So someone asked, an educator's working on a presentation right now. All the formatted ones don't have the mark. If the presentation's before year end, Courtney, you can just use it as is. The PowerPoint template is one that's not going to be terribly hard to update, I think. I can't speak for maybe it's harder than I think to do. You can still use the old one. And another question was permanent garden ID signs that we just purchased, and it's several $100s. Do you have to reprint them? They're grandfathered in. It's like with curriculum, Jane Wright and the publication crew. You don't throw away a 4-H project book because it has the old logo on it. When you can update it, you update it. That said, we are discussing office signs are on the list. There's a handful of other things on the list. So if you think of something that we should be looking at and answering, let me know. But our office signs they don't have to be broadly replaced across the state. They're still correct. They say OSU Extension, they have your county name, they've got scarlet and gray, and they have the college logo. They're more than on brand. Whether we change that, we'll probably pick a date, and that might be January of 2022, that if an office sign is updated, it'll have a new look. Or we may decide, and this is what I've got to work on with the marketing crew, we may decide to leave those signs alone. It truly is going to depend. The goal is that we're not making this a hardship for anyone. It's just, we need to be switching to the new mark when we can. So an example, and I can bring it up at the end if you want. It's not a huge deal. So for example, thought process here. The week before Farm Science Review, the Farm Stress team said, we're working with Uniprint on these banners, and they've got the college logo, spells out OSU Extension above Farm Stress, yada, yada. Do we need to change them? Their question came about because they're going to use the banners for the next year. So it turned out they sent them to BAT, said, what do we need to do? I don't know if it was you, Greg, or Christopher.
It must have
that
been
worked on
Christopher. It wasn't me.
Okay.
Did that one.
They went back and forth, I bet you 4 different times, because it was a designer at Uniprint that was sending it to BAT. And what they ended up doing was literally swapping the extension mark in where the college logo went on the bottom of the banner, putting the college name spelled out on the top of the banner instead of extension, and just making sure that the tag was on there, which it already was. So in their case, it literally was flipping out something. Some things will be a complete rework. We understand that. Again, if you don't know where to start at all, you're welcome to contact me. You're also welcome to send BAT a note and go, here's what I had. What do I need to do? Not to add more stuff to you, Greg.
No, but that's good. That's a good call.
Yeah. And yes, someone asked about return address labels. If you put the college logo on them, yes, I would replace them with the extension mark. Again, any of those, if you have questions and you want me to help you think through whether it needs to be replaced or not, let me know. I mean, send me an email, etc. So the biggest thing what not to do is you can't opt out of using the new mark. It's not a choice. You can't avoid using BAT. You want to talk to Greg and Christopher and Kim because they know what they're doing. And you can't ignore templates or other things. If you want to use the template, you don't have to use a template, but they're a great base. And if you don't see there's a template, so i.e. used to be if people didn't see something for video, you don't want to assume that there aren't any guidelines. So if you don't see something, ask. And you can't skip the process in terms of fiscal and merchandise. You can't just, you can't just make a stab in the dark at it. Are there any other hopefully I've caught everything in chat for now. Carol and Sarah, you guys were asking about having a basic template with top and bottom in place, but not letterhead. Like we used to have a Word doc that we put that gray way back, the gray band. Is that what you're talking about, is putting the elements on something?
Yeah, I would love to have just a Word doc that has the elements on it so that if I need to do a letter or do any type of document that doesn't require, that's not a flyer, that's not a PowerPoint, I just want a Word doc with the basics on it.
And I've used, I hate to say it, but I've used Publisher, and then PowerPoint's great for that too. I would say this, and
that's fine, but I just
yeah.
want a document that I can put text into without all the images there, without having to manipulate all these templates. I just need one simple Word doc to go to all the time and not have to create it and get it approved and then me put it somewhere to not find later.
Exactly.
I'm just being honest.
Well, no, you're right. And I did that with some of the, like the FAQ publications. I don't know if Sarah's done that with the job aids, but that's commonly needed. So Greg, even if that's not something you guys would do, there is the community room on the college brand website that has Zoom backgrounds in it. I'm throwing Greg
Cheryl,
through.
I was gonna say that's one of the things I use all the time. So that would be a perfect addition to the list if that's what you're working on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that everybody would use.
Yeah.
At some point in time, or and it doesn't need to be full letterhead with the office address and everything. It just needs a basic document.
Right. And I use it too. So you're right. And I will apologize now. we didn't know how long this process would take. I knew Jackie and others were working on it with university marketing, and then it was like, oh, here you go. So we've updated those merchandise guidelines, and merchandise and apparel, but we don't have these others. So yeah, that would be good.
Now I will ask for 2 versions, one non-4-H, one 4-H.
Yes. And we did that in the past. We put the clover in the footer, I think. So yeah, one non-4-H and one 4-H. I feel like we're OSU and then the Med Center, you know how they
right. Yeah.
We're the two. Yeah, that's a good point. Now, when you said address, and it reminded me, this was something I asked Amanda this morning to double check, and she said, remember, email signature. Someone asked me, can we switch out the mark? The reality is OSU, and I'll put this, I have this list of reminders that I just need to get out the door to everyone. And my signature has it that way. If you go to, I think it's through, I can't remember whether it's in through Uniprint or where you go in to create your email signature, it's the OSU logo. It's not even the college logo.
Right.
Like we have, Greg saying we have people have all kinds of variations. It's literally OSU's logo. So it's the block O, Ohio State University with the line under it. And then your information is in text. That's what email signatures are supposed to look like. Technically, letterhead is supposed to be the same. So those are 2 things that I'll need to clarify for everyone, because we have people doing all kinds of variations on email signatures, and they aren't our choice. I mean, that's just how it works. The other thing on my list, I've been asked about name badges right now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. Same deal. We'll figure that one out. Apparel, office signs, web headers and footers, you don't have to touch that. I put that in my message. And then there's a couple other like project things. So an example of a project, one that may or may not change for me, because everything I do has to be adjusted to, is NBC4 partnership. Those the segments, the video segments we spell out that they're sponsored by the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. We've got the college logo, but we also spell out in words, it's in a partnership with Extension. We may leave that alone because it is a pilot through January in this case, as well as it is equally paid for by Extension and the college. So because we say both names, that's one of those that, as I've thought through it, I'm going to leave that one alone for now. We probably would switch it in the future, but right now nothing's wrong and it's a pilot. So why would I change it mid-pilot? We're several months into this. So that's some of that logic too. Let's see. Seems like there's another question. If you use shipping labels, this, Greg, would be a question for you. When you've got shipping labels for outside of like pocket folders, does it have to have the 3 elements? So Jen, I take it you're using the label as your branding on that. If that's the case, I would say it needs a variation of that.
Yeah, if there's no other, if there's nothing printed on the outside of the pocket folder, no other branding, then yeah, the branding would have to be on the label, I think.
Right now it's for the development of living skills team, and we used to have our own little logo, but we're told to eliminate that from our documents, and we're going through that process.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just trying to get it in line with what is wanted. And once we mock it up, I was gonna have it sent to you to bless it.
Yeah. Yeah. In essence, I'd say, yeah, all the elements should be on there. And
okay.
It's probably a lot to get on a label, but yeah, I'd say go ahead and put it together and send it on through to BAT.
Okay, because right now we have like no logo on it. It's just our contact information, our address and phone number, in case someone had to reach out to us.
And that reminds me, good question, Jen. And yeah, and even if you're mid design on that one and you're like, am I in the right ballpark, or what do you suggest? Because once they see it, it's a little easier. But that's the other thing, is you can't avoid branding something because you don't want to mess with it. I've had that question. Someone's like, well, I'm just going to send out a flyer anyway. I don't want to spend the time and have it approved by BAT. It doesn't need anything. It's just, if it's going out as part of your job and you're representing Extension, which obviously we all are at all times with our whatever we're printing or sharing, it needs to be branded appropriately. So it isn't, I'm going to do a 1-page flyer and slap the words OSU Extension on there. That's not what we prefer. Again, it's the good faith effort of making sure that you're linked to the university and college. We've had this in the past, at least a couple of us on here have discussed it before. We've gotten stuff through after the fact. Someone's literally slapped a clover on something and said, Buckeye County Extension, or they've said blah, blah, blah 4-H program, and it's something that's being shared with multiple people. That's not what we like to see, because that you're not even linking yourself in some cases to Extension, much less the university. So again, it's the good faith effort that we're representing Extension in some way, shape, or form. That said, it can be hard. I mean, I'm trying to think, I don't have one of the lip balms at my desk with me, but the lip balm we hand out at Farm Science Review literally has a block O and the Extension URL on it. And I think we spell out the words the Ohio State University, because nothing else fits. So, I mean, we also do it within, we apply logic and you do it within reason, for sure. Let me see what other question. Christina, you were asking about adding plants to the gardens, and this could apply to other folks with community gardens. I would say we would take a look at what your signage is. We wouldn't blindly, if you've got multiple signs in a community garden, we would probably need to look at starting to switch those over. So again, we're not going to require you to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's just, we need to think about, if these are things that are ongoing, we need to figure out how to incorporate the mark in there. And it could be a 2-step process. Just if you need to make some adjustments, partial adjustments somehow. Let's see. I saw that landscape Word document as well. Yes, we can do both orientations for that. Let's see, other questions about that whole process? Let me touch on, oops, I'm in the wrong spot here. Social media and video production, just because those are part of branding overall. Social media, definitely have a plan for your content. All accounts have to be university approved. And there's general best practices. We have questions on this from time to time. And we have a social media team leader in the marketing group for the college. That's Mitch Mosier. And he's got some basic guidelines. I know counties, and some of you may have had to do this with counties, anyone who owned a social media account was asked, I think this summer, so I think 2019 was when they started, the university did a social media audit. I still don't have a summary of those results, go figure. But in the process, just know that you need to be planful about what your content is, and use logic and best practices overall. If you have questions about accounts, let me know. We had this come up when we all went virtual with COVID, and immediately everyone said, oh, I've got to have a Facebook account, or I need X account, if they didn't have one. It still had to go through the university. It isn't a stopgap measure, because you have to have more content plan than just whether the office was open to the public or not. Those accounts are very useful. I think at this point, we now have every county that has at least a Facebook account. For a while, we had a handful that did not. You are welcome to use those, of course. Obviously, that's, but keep in mind that your websites also are the home for your basic content. We still you still need to populate your county website with your basic information. If you have questions about what that looks like, let me know by all means. Video, and I'll skip to that slide and come back while I'm thinking about it, because I've had this question many a time. Beyond the fact that we will update the headers and footers on the websites when the time comes, you are allowed multiple people per county to be editors on your website. Periodically, I get that question of, oh, I thought only one of us could do it. That is not true. And SNAP-Ed, FNEP, if that fits within how they handle things and they want to be trained and handle their pages, that's fine. You have to be trained in Drupal before you have access to the websites. That's how it works. It's not a difficult training. A lot of it's what you see is what you get. What we ask is that if you have more than one person in a county who has access, decide who's updating which pages. So in some counties, every educator updates their own program area page, and everyone adds events to the calendar. In other counties, one person updates the web, or one person handles just their events and their calendar listings. So it is up to you. It does require Drupal training. I will say that with the next update, when that happens, they're working on Drupal 8 and cleanup of the websites overall, that we will have added accessibility training. So we may, as I've been through training a bazillion times now, and I still learn something, and I'll have to go back through it for that. The reason the websites are very similar, obviously, is because the content management system allows us universal updates. So huge recent example, of course, is all the COVID-19 resources. The university took over the websites on the various servers and posted a lot of the banners that were up there. And then the college posted a lot of things. Or when we had the previous active shooter situation on main campus, it was on all the county sites. It just is. Even if it doesn't apply, if the university, or in that, in some cases, the college decides there needs to be something pushed out to every website, it's not, that's not even our choice at the college level on some of those. It gets pushed out. That's why that universal system is so important. It also means we can go in and update things exactly like the logo adjustment and other stuff. For a while, we had a vaccine survey on the county web pages. We've had a couple 4-H promos. We've added some things to the websites and then removed some things. So if you have questions about it, ask me anytime. And then one of my things is use Go links. If you've got stuff buried on a page in your website, don't make up a new URL. Use a Go link for things. If you have questions about that, send me a note. But I realize a lot of the URLs are super long if it's something that's 3 pages down. But if it's such and such 2021 field day schedule, please don't make up your own URL. You can use a Go link that's go.osu.edu/2021 Buckeye County field days or something. Keep in mind, a lot of times, more often than not, when you're sending things out by email or on social media, you're adding the link and folks are clicking anyway. They're not having to type the link. So that's something to think about with websites. And Eric was already starting to do Drupal training. I'm not sure whether Eric will continue to do the Drupal training or if they'll tap someone else on their small team. I don't think they know yet how they're going to do that. And I'll skip back to video production because that's huge. Videos have to be approved by BAT. I'm not sure how many you guys see, Greg, but
it varies a lot, but sometimes there's quite a few, yeah.
And that's any and all videos. They don't have to be posted on our websites, on our YouTube channel, but they really do need to be reviewed by BAT. I suppose you could learn a lot of things, Greg.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of cool stuff. So there are elements and templates for the videos posted online. Same deal. If you've got to run with a video now and use it, use the template that's there. We may or may not be changing out those beginning and end slide contents with the mark. They have to be approved by BAT. You have to have a transcript, and then you have to have closed captioning. And then we have 2 YouTube channels, the college channel and then the extension professionals channel. The college level channel is the one that the college has created. The extension professionals channel is the one that's for videos created by literally our county educators. That's, I think, where our channel 4 videos are sitting. What that means is you don't have to have your own YouTube channel just to host a video. You can make a request to have a video posted on that extension professionals channel and link to that from your website or your Facebook account, etc. You can't host videos on the Drupal accounts. They're not set up to do that and to handle it. Again, if you have questions, you can ask the video team or myself. Co-branding, before I get, I'll just, here, I'll go to this. My last thing was co-branding, and Carol mentioned this with the 4-H, even the basic template. The 4-H, we've thought through how to do it. The brand team's already worked through how merchandise and apparel should be, we call it co-branded with the 4-H Clover. It's true, the 4-H is a federal, 4-H Clover is a federal mark. It's an emblem. We don't have say over what the mark itself looks like, but the university does have some say in how it's used in conjunction with the college logo, the extension mark, university, etc. That said, we want to be co-branded with 4-H in any way, shape, or form. And then other entities, it depends on the level of cooperation. So an example I have was this past year, I was contacted by a county educator, and it was Extension, OSU Health Plan, and another entity at the university. What we did was we actually sent that to our brand team, and they went back to the university at the time. And the slide, it was for a PowerPoint for a class that was being taught. The slides have the OSU logo at the top left, and in the top right, it had all 3 entities' names. That's how that works, because there's one OSU logo allowed. I'll get to your other question, Kay, in a sec. The other co-branding question we've had is Central State. We do not have pre-designed Central State items. Other than fact sheets, we've done 1, maybe 2 fact sheets that were equally co-authored by a Central State professional and an OSU Extension professional. Those particular fact sheets have the Central State University Extension logo on them. We worked with the web team to make that happen for printing of those fact sheets as well. If you have, and BAT has, I know you guys have discussed this, if you send a request to BAT for co-branding with Central State, they're going to ask you about the role of each player, and they'll probably coordinate with me. And the same as if you send it to me. Right now, we know that Central State is pulling back on coordinating programming with us. They're doing a lot on their own. So we want to give them credit wherever possible. However, it will depend on each scenario. So if you're doing programming with an educator from Central State, just chat with BAT or chat with me even before you assume whatever. We want to make sure we recognize both entities. Let's see. Kay, you were asking about handouts within a packet for advisor training. If a handout, if you've got individual handouts, they're in one packet, but each handout could be used separately. Don't you love my hand gestures? I don't know why. I realized I'm doing that. If they can be used individually, yes, each handout should be branded. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly what I would say, yeah.
Okay. Your folder.
If they're always going to be a group, I mean, if they're always going to be, given out as a group, then that would be a different situation. And the first one could be branded. It would just be like a like an unbound publication or something.
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
there is any chance that any of them would be used independently, then they should have the branding on it. Yeah.
So for example, several years ago now, we did some area meetings with County Commissioners Association. I had something on each program area and then some subsets within that. Every single page I had was exactly what that request was for, like that word shell of a page kind of thing. I simply dumped the new content for A&R on one, FCS on another, whatever my topics were, every single item, because they were actually in a folder just like that, because someone could pull it out and hand it to someone and use it individually. Every one of those was branded. Now, if it was like Greg said, if it's a 10-page paper, like even my PowerPoint, so that the PowerPoint notes, I printed it 2 up. It's branded once, not that you can see it easily. You'll see I have the extension mark on every slide. It has the college tag and the name because it's easy to do in the header or footer, but nowhere else do I have the extension mark, because you're rarely going to separate out a slide. So does that make sense? Same deal. Question on that, send your example to BAT or send it to me. Some of those answers, they might trust me to answer.
Sure. Yeah.
Are there other questions? Feel free to unmute and ask. I know we're coming to the end of time, the end of our time, not the end of time.
Hopefully not.
It might be. You'll see on this slide that we actually have the college tag in gray. So, and you don't always have to use just scarlet and gray. There are other acceptable colors. Those are on the website as well.
Cheryl, I have a question.
I know
Personally, I have a video that probably needs to be reviewed by the branding team, but is it okay to just use for the video, is it okay to just use the logo tag, the CFAES logo tag, outro and intro for the video?
if it's the one that's posted online right now, Shalise, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, I put it in
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams for people to look at, but it hasn't been shared, across the organization yet. But
If it's
I just want to make
easiest,
sure I didn't have to have the extension logo tag and outro, that I could use the CFAES one.
yeah, you can still use it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if the easiest way for them for BAT to review, Shalise, is if you invite one of the designers to that team. You might have to like send an email to figure out the best way for them to review a video,
Okay.
depending on where you have it sitting.
Yeah.
I say I can download. It's a I believe it's an MP4, so I can just probably. It might be too big for email. I'll figure it out.
Okay. And an
Okay.
example of what we did with video, like, so NBC4 project, the first video segments went were reviewed. After that, we're literally not changing what scrolls across the bottom of the screen, etc. It's literally the content's changing, but not the design of the piece.
Gotcha. Okay. And what I might actually do, which will be easier, is create a Go link to it.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then people just
That's
click
good
the
idea.
link and view it. That
Right.
might be easier.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Again, it's a group project. And I see one last question. Do we have to brand internal only forms recording clients' responses to self-assessments? It was branded in the past. Some people would say you don't have to. Personally, I'm like, it's not hard to use like that Word document type thing. And if it's an internal form that someone may at any point turn around and share, it should be branded, I think.
Yeah, it's probably better to brand
Yeah.
it. Yeah. If
At
it's
the
office stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and at the very least, use this. This is part of what I call that good faith effort, or the step process. If I've literally seen where someone said, Rabbit sign up form, at the very least, put your county name on there, or put OSU Extension, in Wayne County fair forms or whatever. There's so many documents that say fair form and they don't even have a year on it. or they don't have your county name, make sure it's on there somewhere, even if it's an internal document. Because that's gotten folks in trouble before. They've posted something and it didn't have the right year on it, and they didn't cross check, and someone's missed a deadline because the date was changed the next year. Questions? Let me stop sharing here. Cool. We've stunned you all. I didn't put you on the spot too. Hey, Greg, is there anything I left out that you wish everyone in any office knew about branding? Now I'm really stumping you.
That sounds dangerous.
It is.
No, I mean, I think you've covered everything really well. I mean, I think just keeping in mind that all the branding is sort of an ongoing work in progress, and that you just kind of have to roll with it and make the changes.
Yeah.
I know that the main marketing communications office is prepping a whole slew of other changes too that are going to be on the horizon. So
great.
So that'll be coming down the road too.
Great. We heard it here first, maybe. Yeah. So again, not meant to be super painful, but it's, and yes, I mean, it means an adjustment to almost everything we do. I will say, because it's laying here in my site, the merchandise and apparel guidelines, the process in there is pretty straightforward. Yes, there's multiple steps in terms of getting approval, but the other thing is the brand team has thought through how to use the logo on clothing and items. So you don't have to start from scratch on that. You can certainly go to that. That's a super helpful document.
Yeah. It helps me. I have to refer to that all the time because it's, there's just a lot of details. So
right.
It's good. It's a good thing to have.
Yeah. When in doubt, don't guess at it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Shalise, I think we've hit our limit.
Everybody. Yeah, that's all I have. That's all you guys have. Thank you, Greg, too, for being on here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks everybody for
and answering questions. We appreciate it.
Here.
I'm gonna